In this video, I'm going to talk about the top 10 RPG campaigns that I want to play. Now, this list has been built over many years, and what I do with this list is I basically collect all the different cool, exciting looking RPGs that I would like to run a full campaign for. And when I see an RPG that I want to run a campaign for, it goes on my list. Oftentimes, a RPG that I want to put on this list comes from my reading list for RPGs, and I do have a top 10 list every year for that as well. And this list that I'm about to show you is dynamic. Some of these I have played, some of them I am playing, and some of them are finished, but every year it kind of moves around because some of these campaigns get played, some of them get started, and some of them get knocked off the list by other RPGs that I find and want to play instead. So having said that, here are currently the top 10 RPG campaigns that I want to play with my different play groups. So number 10 for me is the Tomb of Horrors here. I'm going to hold it up to the camera, the old school Tomb of Horrors. And this is kind of it's an old school module, and this old school module gives that vibe of old school D&D where it wasn't as much of a collaborative play experience with everybody pitching in to have a good story. Rather, it really was almost to the point where it was Dungeon Master versus player. The Dungeon Master was throwing some really nasty tricks at the players and trying to have the players figure out how to get past these with problem solving and things like that. And that's what the Tomb of Horror really embodies. Now, I'm going to read, or paraphrase, I guess, two of these. So at the very entrance of this tomb, there's two false entrances. Okay, so one of these false entrances is a trap, and the roof is going to basically collapse, and it's going to inflict 5d10 hit points worth of damage. Now that's a ton. It's worth mentioning this is for adventurers that are levels, I think, 10 to 14, so pretty high level. But yeah, first entrance to the tomb dealing 5d10 damage, that's pretty crazy. And then the next false entrance to the tunnel is a trap that basically is going to seal off the characters inside the passageway. Now get this, you as the Dungeon Master, they give the characters a heads up that, hey, you hear a rumbling behind them, and the rules instruct the Dungeon Master to start counting to 10. Not 1 second per count, about 1.5 seconds per count. So really you're getting to like 15 seconds. And if the players don't do anything in 15 seconds of real time, they're trapped, and it lists 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 spells that can get them out of there, otherwise they're stuck and the game's over. So those first two false entrances to the tomb just kind of show how nasty some of the tricks and traps and surprises are in the Tomb of Horrors. Now I wouldn't want to run this old school because that's not the type of thing that my playgroup would like. They would not like running the Tomb of Horrors with these old school rules. But if I presented this as a very short campaign, say 3 to 5 sessions, and I said, hey, what we're going to do is kind of an interesting campaign. This is kind of a nasty old adventure module where they do try and trap you as players, but I'm going to give them 5th edition characters and have it be like 5th edition versus OSR and see how far they can get in the Tomb of Horrors. That is how I would present this, and that's how I would want to run this with my playgroup. So that's number 10 for me, is the old school Tomb of Horrors versus my player characters using 5th edition characters. So I'm going to get this back in the plastic here, and I will go on to number 9. The number 9... Sorry, I got to make sure that's put away. The number 9 RPG campaign that I want to run is Gurps. Now, this is actually the only Gurps book I own. I used to own 2 others, but I sold them, and now I kind of regret that. Gurps is crazy. Gurps stands for Generic Universal Role-Playing System, I think. Please correct me if I'm wrong in the comments there. But basically, what Gurps does is it takes any possible type of game you could ever want to play, and it gives you rules for it. Now, the cool thing is the rules all work together. And so you can run fantasy or urban fantasy by having like the fantasy book and the urban book, or the modern book. Basically, all these rules can work together in one way or another. And so you can really customize the type of game that you would want to run. Gurps is crazy to get into. At some point, I would like to read a lot of these books and just kind of see how they all work together. But the type of campaign that I would want to run with Gurps is I'd want to start with Gurps Lite, basically the very basic beginning. Here's the system. It's very simple. Blah 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 blah. And then I want to have my players branch their characters any way they want to go. I want them to be able to say, you know what, my character, I want them to become a superhero, or you know what, my character, I want them to use kung fu, or you know what, my character, I want them to learn how to use magic. And then I would let the player interest drive the game towards the mechanics that Gurps can provide. And then I would get those books and introduce the mechanics. And slowly over time, we would go from a very simple Gurps Lite system to a much more complex system by adding one or two mechanics at a time. And I think that would just be an incredible experience. It also would take a lot of time to set up. And so the scope of a campaign that large is a little daunting to me. And that's why Gurps, with slowly adding the mechanics in any direction that my players want to go, is my number 9. My number 8 top 10 RPG campaign that I would like to play is a campaign that I've actually already run. We ran the first season of it 2 years ago, and I'm hoping to run the second season of it now, and I don't have anything to hold up for it. But I called the campaign Supernatural Minneapolis. That's the city where I currently live. And the campaign uses the Monster of the Week rules and system. And basically what it is I took the Dresden Files universe and I took it from Chicago and moved it to Minneapolis. And I changed a few things up, but nobody in the play group that I ran this with had ever read the Dresden Files. So I had a setting that was ready to go and a rule system that works really, really well with the play group that I'm working with. And I basically set it up. I used a lot of the lore from Minnesota, the Kensington Runestone and other things like that. Hidden tunnels near the Mississippi River, fun stuff like that. And it was a really fun campaign. We really enjoyed season 1. We had one session meeting in season 2 years ago, and then, life got busy, that type of thing. And so I'm looking to revive it here at the kind of in the fall this year with that group. I'm hoping to run season 2. I'm looking at 4 to 5 sessions. I already have kind of a general campaign arc set up. No specifics yet, though, so I want to finish that up. And one of the things I've really had a lot of fun with this is sending the players stuff in the mail, and so that's been a lot of fun for them and for me because I can send them those things. They get the things in the mail, and those are actual props that they can use when we sit down and play the game. So that is my number 8, our Supernatural Minneapolis campaign. Again, I'm hoping to get that started in a month or 2 here, and it's using Monster of the Week. My number 7 top 10 RPG campaigns I want to play is a Traveler campaign. All right. And it's not the only Traveler campaign I have on here, but it is a pre-Jump Drive Traveler campaign. So in the Traveler universe, there is a lot of, go look at my travelermap.com video. It's crazy how big the universe is, and the universe expands a lot of different time periods. But there's a time period on Earth in the Traveler lore where they just first learn how to do jump drives and they start jumping out to other systems. Now, I'm a little shaky on the actual history of it, but I believe that these first explorers who are jumping out of the solar system that we all live in this Traveler history, they find life outside of Earth, and it blows their minds. They say, oh my gosh. But not only do they find life, but they find other humans. Now, that's a crazy moment. That's such a crazy moment, and I want this campaign to focus around that moment because that would be incredible in a near future sci-fi experience. Not only that, though, but if I remember correctly in Traveler lore, these first explorers coming out of the solar system find humans, and it's not the first time that the humans that they found have met other humans that didn't know other humans existed. So it means that humans exist in the universe and are isolated. And so, I don't know, it's an incredible opportunity to present a very fun story with a lot of lore that's already been determined around it. And so I would like to run that game up through that moment and see how my players take it. So that's my number 7, the pre-Jump Drive Traveler campaign with a lot of exploration going on around it. Number 6 on my top 10 RPG campaigns I want to run, I'm actually running right now. And my next session is tonight. It is the Lost City, the old school Dungeons & Dragons module, Lost City. I'm currently running this with a group. You can see all my other Lost City videos. I try and give updates every 2 sessions that we play because this is kind of iconic. It's one of the iconic original D&D modules. And anybody looking to run this, it's a great campaign adventure to run. There are some tips for any DMs who want to run this that I would suggest, excuse me, that I think would really help a new DM looking to run this system. So check out those videos if you're interested. But I think the system is and this adventure is really great, and my players are having a lot of fun with it. And this will be done at the rate they're going, probably not by the end of the year, but early next year would be my guess. They are tearing through these levels. They've basically accomplished anything of note within the first 4 tiers of the pyramid. They have one more area in the 5th tier that they can go after, and they've already had an excursion down into like the sub tiers of the pyramid, 6, 7, and 8, and so they are probably a few sessions away from potentially meeting Zargon, who's like the big bad boss or whatever, and who knows what's going to happen when that occurs. So that is my number 6, the Lost City. It's ongoing, and I'm excited to see where it ends up. Number 5 for me, the top 10 RPGs that I would like to run, is another Traveler campaign, but this one is just generic Traveler. In 2016, so 6 years ago now, I ran a generic Traveler campaign. It was super fun. The group that I was with, they found something that I made up called the Prejump, and they didn't know what it did, and it was a device this big where it had like different like electricity lightning bolts that were going off in different directions, and essentially it was a map. The lightning bolts pointed to where they should go in 3 dimensions. They never figured it out, because we had a total party kill at one point when they were docking at a planet and someone was chasing them, and there was a spy on their ship, and the spy had planted a bomb, and one of the characters tried taking the bomb off of the wall of the ship, but it was a proximity mine, a la like 007 GoldenEye from the N64 era, and it blew a big hole in the ship, killed half the group, and it just was a situation nobody was getting out of, so we all decided to end the campaign there in a fiery explosion. So it was very fun, but I'd like to go back to Traveler someday because it's such a great system. It's one of my favorite systems, and I really want to run another campaign with it. So that is number 5, generic Traveler, my 5th top RPG campaign that I would like to play. Number 4 for me is something that I kind of did last Christmas, and this is the Keep on the Borderlands Old School Dungeons & Dragons module. That's B2, and I've been in love with this module ever since I read through the module for the first time a few years ago, I think, and it is so quintessential to me as like the original hex crawl, the original beginner module for Dungeons and Dragons. The idea that it's just so simple and so well put together. The idea that there's this keep, there's this safe area for the player characters. They can go there, get supplies, they can go there, sell their treasure, and then when they're ready, they go back out into the wilderness and they can explore the wilderness together. I ran this for a few family members last Christmas. We had a lot of fun with it, but we only got like 2 or 3 sessions in because they were only visiting for a small amount of time. So that's something that I would like to do again or continue with them. I don't know if I'm going to keep it on my top 10 list by the end of the year because I kind of ran it, at the very beginning of this year. So we'll see, but that is my number 4, the Keep on the Borderlands of my top 10 RPG campaigns that I want to run. Number 3 then is another system I've talked about a lot, and that is a Dungeon Crawl Classics campaign. Now, I have done a few one-shots for Dungeon Crawl Classics, which a lot of my players kind of enjoy as it's like a gimmick, like, oh, it's this fun thing we get to do once. But a lot of them said, even though the funnel system where you have 4 level 0 characters and a lot of them die throughout the adventure, they said it was fun, but it's not something they'd want to do again. So I'm not sure if this type of play is good for my play group, because there is an idea that you may be controlling more than one character in Dungeon Crawl Classics, and it does adhere to that OSR mentality that, hey, player death happens. It's a part of the game, and that doesn't always vibe with some of my players. So I'm not sure if I'll get to this in the near future, but I think it is a very cool system. It's a very fun system, but it's a system that sometimes leads players along instead of giving them a little bit more self-initiated direction themselves. So not sure if I'm going to play this in the near future, but that is my number 3, a Dungeon Crawl Classic campaign. Now, the jump from number 3 on my list to number 2 and number 1 on my list is very, very large. The top from maybe number 10 to number 3, those are all pretty close together, and I can see them changing places. But number 2 and number 1 on my list are not going anywhere anytime soon, probably. And these are 2 that I really, really, really want to run. And this one is something that I think would have a high probability of being run in the next year or two. We'll see. And this is the old school i6 Ravenloft module. Now, there are a lot of like remakes of this. I like the Curse of Strahd is, I think, a 5th edition one that's pretty recent, and my brother-in-law actually played through that and really enjoyed it. But this, and so I might do something like that instead of the original. But the original is just so well put together. It is absolutely gorgeous. At some point, I'll do a full video about i6 Ravenloft, but the maps are incredible. The gameplay is incredible. The setup is incredible. It has just art. Like, there's just art in the module. It's crazy. It's got a full color fold out map. It's got these isometric dungeon designs. It is just incredible. I've used that word a few times in a row, and it just explains how good of a module i6 is. There's some really unique stuff they do here with Count Strahd von Zarovich, and how Strahd is run in the module, run as a genius. There is something called the Fortunes of Ravenloft, which give you a unique starting game, essentially. And if you want to rerun the module, it gives you different parameters, so you can run the module and it'll be totally different. It is, in my opinion, the best original module of the original series of modules, at least that I've ever read, and it's something that I would really, really want to run, whether it's in this form or if it's in like a 5th edition remake style form. I don't care. I want to run it someday, and I think I will be able to someday, especially since I have the Lost Cities playgroup, probably halfway or further finished with that module. This one might be my next suggestion. I just have to figure out how to do it in an open table style campaign, which is how I'm running the Lost City. So that is my number 2. The number 2 RPG campaign I want to run is i6 Ravenloft. And that brings me to my number 1, the number 1 RPG campaign that I would like to run with my playgroups, and this is Pendragon. I've talked a whole lot about Pendragon. I've talked about how I'm playing it solo. I've talked about how it's on my top one-shots list that I want to run. And it's really on the top one-shots list I want to run because I want to give my players a teaser, a taste of how good this system is. And I think as soon as they get that, they will get together and say, you know what, we want to play this for real. The only problem is I want to go big. I want to run the Great Pendragon campaign from start to finish that covers like 80 years or something like that of in-game play. The problem is that equals 80 sessions of playtime, and I've never gotten to 80 sessions. I can't remember the last time I got to 20 sessions of a single campaign group before something or another happened. That's just the lives that myself and my friends and my players all live right now. So I don't know if we're ever going to be able to do the Great Pendragon campaign, but I definitely want to sit down and play Pendragon and get my players hungry for more Knights of King Arthur. The feasts in this game are incredible. Like the base building, I guess you could say, it's really, you own an estate, but it's incredible. I've used the word incredible a lot, but this is my top 10 list of RPG campaigns I want to run. So that's my number 1, Pendragon. The Great Pendragon campaign, start to finish, would be an absolutely wonderful and amazing experience. And it would be super fun. So that is my that is my top 10 RPG campaigns that I want to run from 10 to 1. And the way I use this list with my group is basically when I have extra time coming up, like in October, November, I have a little bit of extra time. Usually I'll reach out to one of my play groups or a few of my friends and say, hey, I want to do this thing. But the thing that I want to do comes from this list. And I'm really careful about picking out campaigns and systems that I think will work well with my players and my friends after, having played with them for a decade or more in some cases. So that is my top 10 list. I'd be curious to hear what your top 10 list is like. If you have some favorites, please let me know in the comments below. Again, I do make my own games. You can see the link below at paperdicegames.com. I also have a Patreon that I'm trying to get going. The link to that Patreon page will be below as well, and I appreciate anyone checking that out. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video.